Hey friend, thank you again for joining me for this video. This is how to make your art studies come alive, part 2. In the first video, I gave you 3 tips to make your art appreciation studies come alive. But in this one, I want to talk to you about art expression because this area seems to be the one in which so many moms feel so inadequate. And I want to encourage you that you're not in this alone. We've got art expression and process videos and creativity prompts on this YouTube channel for your teens, and you could benefit from them. And then we also have premium courses that we sell on the Masterpiece Society that could help you in this area, particularly some that we learn about the master artists and we try our hand at recreating 3 of their art pieces. Those are called Mixing with the Masters, Volumes 1 and 2. We also have our art school courses and Art Escapades by my daughter Olivia, who takes artworks inspired by master artists to put her own little funky twist on them. But first of all, what is art expression? It's simply making art. When your children are younger, it's just about letting them create color and make whatever their heart desires. But as they grow, you can add a little bit of an art instruction along the way that will help them refine their skills. And then as they get even older, art expression can become a process or means of making their thoughts or feelings known, getting into that cathartic state of relaxation, detoxing, de-stressing. Or it can simply be an outlet to convey or show what's in their heart or on their mind. So we've talked about over and over what the benefits of art are, and that actually comes from art expression, from making something with your own hands, from taking an active role in the creative process. So I've got one tip, the best tip I can give you to enhance your art expression, and that is to let your kids and teens copy the great masters. So as an artist and teacher, I cannot tell you how many times I've had moms question me about copying artwork. They think that their children shouldn't copy, but instead they should have these open-ended art projects that should be all about the child expressing himself or herself. And they are right. Process art does play a big role. But at the same time, they're less than right. Because how can kids or teens truly express themselves if they've never been trained in the fundamental techniques? Most people can't sit down at a grand piano and express what's in their heart and soul if they've never learned music theory or even where to position their fingers or practice their scales on a regular basis. Can you imagine what that expression might sound like? In the same way, a kid or teen trying to express his or her feelings through art without learning the basics of drawing or painting will only end up frustrated or defeated, and they might begin to think, like some adults, that they don't have a creative bone in their body. Even Pablo Picasso said, "Learn the rules like a pro so that you can break them like an artist." Think about this. In just about every gallery and art museum across the world, one comes across artists and both amateurs and professionals who copy masterpieces in order to become better artists themselves. There's nothing new or strange about this. Raphael studied and copied the works of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Have you seen Raphael's Mona Lisa? Degas copied Rembrandt, Giotto, Bellini, Ingres, and more. Van Gogh copied Rembrandt, Millet, and the Impressionists. I've been to the Louvre a couple of times, as well as other art museums throughout France and England and all throughout the United States. And still to this day, part of an artist's training is to be a copyist. We've seen so many amazing artists with their easels set up in front of other famous paintings at these world-class museums, and they are copying the masterworks. I mean, it always kind of thrills my soul. I want to sneak up behind them and watch their process and maybe try to see that piece of art through their eyes. the art that they're copying because everybody sees it from a different perspective. So at the Louvre, downstairs, there's this one little room where they have the Impressionist paintings that are in the Louvre, because most of the Impressionist paintings are at the Musée d'Orsay across the street. You've got to go there. It is my favorite museum in the world. But they have this sad little room in the Louvre, and they have this picture or this painting of Edward Manet, and it's the Madonna of the Rabbit, and it is side by side with Titian's of the same name. Titian painted his in 1530, whereas Manet painted his piece 300 years later, sometime between 1850 to 1860. So I want to read to you what it actually says on the plaque at the Louvre. It says, bequeathed to the museum in 2017, this copy of the Madonna of the Rabbit was probably painted in front of the original at the Louvre. Studying Titian was an essential part of Manet's artistic training. He drew inspiration from this composition to paint his famous Luncheon on the Grass, which is held in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. So he painted Luncheon on the Grass in 1862. And if you know anything about Manet, you know that the Paris Salon's reaction to the Luncheon on the Grass, that painting, forever changed his life and sent the entire art establishment of the day in an uproar. This painting was pivotal in bringing about Impressionism. So maybe your kids don't aspire to be like Titian or Rembrandt or Monet or even Picasso, but copying one or two of their paintings is one of the best ways for them to form connections with them and learn the techniques that they also learned from artists before them. And then once kids and teens are familiar with some of these styles and techniques of the masters, they're much better equipped to begin trying cool techniques in their own style and begin to express themselves through their own art. The point is not only to learn about techniques that the artist used, but also to try out those techniques like impasto or tache or alla prima, chiaroscuro, pointillism. Those are some of the most amazing, fun techniques to try. And learning these techniques and trying them for themselves helps them understand why the artist did what they did and maybe even why they did it that way. Why did the Impressions paint with the impasto and tache and alla prima? It's because they were trying to capture a fleeting moment of time. They didn't have time to mix the paint colors in their studios or even on their palette. They would mix them on the canvas because they wanted to capture these specific slivers of time. And so these techniques were quick and easy, and it helped them produce these colorful, beautiful paintings outdoors. And it helped them catch that impression of the moment. And as I mentioned earlier, open-ended process art videos are fabulous. But once they learn these techniques, and that's what we do in our Creative Juices playlist, if you will check the YouTube channel for those, we teach different techniques, or we show how these different media interact together. Because once they learn these techniques, then they can go off and create their own art pieces and then start to express themselves a little more. But allowing your kids and teens to not only study the great masters, but also try out their different techniques, copy some of their works, this will do wonders for making your art studies, not just your art appreciation, but your art expression times come alive. So I strongly encourage you to not only learn about the master artists with your kids and teens, but allow them to copy their paintings, explore and experiment with their styles, their techniques, the different art mediums. Don't limit them to one supply. Try watercolors, try acrylics and oils, oil pastels, which, by the way, were invented because Picasso wanted them invented. Have them experiment with combining the different media, and these will truly make your art studies come alive. I believe that this is the best way for your kids and teens to be able to take advantage of all the benefits of art expression. And of course, it's a super fun way to form connections with the great master artists. So I'm going to summarize from the previous video. Tips for art appreciation is to connect your studies with what was happening in the world at the time that the artist lived. Look for fun, cool, and even weird facts about the artists that you're studying. Make a point to visit museums wherever you go so that your kids and teens can come in contact with these amazing works of art in real life. And then the best tip for art expression is to let them copy the master artists.